Yeah, it started with that slap. Not because it hurt. I've been punched harder falling off a ladder. But the sting? That was shame. Right in front of my sons. Right in my own damn house. My cheek burned, not from the impact, but from the look in their eyes. Confused, scared, like they didn't know who to run to. Let me back up. It was a Saturday. I'd been planning a little cookout for 2 weeks. Nothing fancy, just burgers, ribs, corn salad, and a few beers. I even cleaned the grill the night before, scrubbed off last summer's grease, got the kids hyped for it. They were watching cartoons in the living room when it happened. Ben and Jordan, 6-year-old twins with mismatched socks and more energy than sense. My wife, Mel, barely spoke that morning. She floated around like she had one foot out the door, dressed in this tight red dress I hadn't seen since our 5th anniversary, back when she still cared if I looked at her. I asked, quietly, "You sure that's what you're wearing for a backyard thing?" She looked me up and down like I was dirt on her shoes. "Don't start, Ian. I told you we were having company." Company? That was news to me. Then the doorbell rang. I opened it, and there he was. Tall, lean, arms folded like he was sizing me up before I even said a word. Tank top too small for his ego, tattoos climbing his neck like weeds, and this little smirk that made me want to knock him out just for existing. He didn't say hello, just walked past me like I was the doormat. Mel lit up. "This is Sean," she said, like she was introducing a celebrity. "He's a friend." A friend. Right. Ben and Jordan looked up from the TV, unsure what to make of this guy. Sean flopped onto the couch, kicked off his shoes, propped his feet on my coffee table like he paid the mortgage. I stood there, bottle of soda in my hand, gripping it like a club. 15 minutes in, I'm outside flipping ribs, and they're inside laughing like high schoolers. I could hear her laugh through the screen door, sharp and high-pitched, like the kind she used to save for me. I watched through the window as he leaned over, whispered something. She slapped his chest and giggled. That was the moment something snapped. Not full-blown rage, not yet. Just that pressure in your chest when you know something's off, and you're the last to see it. I walked in, tried to keep it cool. "You want a beer?" I asked him. He looked me up and down, smirked, then stood up. And that's when he said it. "You're done here, bro. I'm the man of the house now." My brain didn't register it at first. I looked at Mel. She didn't correct him, didn't laugh it off. She just stood there, arms folded, chin raised like she was daring me to challenge it. I said, quiet, "What did you just say?" That's when it came. His hand, open palm, across my face, in front of my kids. Time froze. My ears rang. I turned and saw Ben clutch Jordan's shirt. Both of them frozen like statues. My hand shook so bad the beer bottle slipped and shattered on the tile. Mel didn't move, didn't say a word, just watched, smiling. I didn't think. I launched myself at Sean, tackled him straight through the glass coffee table. I heard it crack, then shatter beneath us. My fists went to work, pure instinct. I didn't stop. Not until I felt something pop in his wrist. Not until he screamed like a child. Mel screamed too, but not in fear. In anger. "Ian, stop. You're crazy." Paramedics were fast. Almost too fast. Like she'd called them before things even started. Neighbors poured in. 2 of them dragged me off. My knuckles were raw, shirt torn, sweat pouring off me like I'd run a marathon through hell. The kids were upstairs by then. Thank God. I didn't want them to see more of it. Cops showed up. But my neighbor, Dale, vouched for me. Said he saw the other guy swing first. Said it was self-defense. They hauled Sean out on a stretcher. His face barely looked human. Hands bent the wrong way. Red everywhere. And Mel? She didn't ask if I was okay. She didn't ask about the boys. She just looked at me with pure disgust. "You've ruined everything," she hissed. That's when I saw it. Not just a wife who'd made a mistake. Not just someone caught up in something reckless. I saw a traitor. A woman who'd chosen someone else and didn't even have the decency to hide it. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just looked at her and asked one thing. "How long?" She blinked. "What? How long has he been the man of this house?" That wiped the smirk off her face. I walked upstairs. I found Jordan curled up under the blanket and Ben staring out the window. I sat with them, quiet. My hand still shook. I didn't know what to say. I'd just been slapped in front of my sons. By a stranger. In my house. While their mother watched. That wasn't a crack in the foundation. That was the whole house caving in. And I knew. This wasn't the end. It was just the start of something uglier. The house didn't feel like home after that slap. It felt like a waiting room in hell, quiet, Tense, air thick with something I couldn't name. The kind of silence that feels personal. Mel didn't leave that night. After they hauled Sean out, she didn't apologize. Didn't ask if I was okay. She barely looked at me. Just sat there on the edge of the couch, legs crossed, eyes glued to her phone like none of it had happened. The boys were upstairs. I made sure they stayed there. I couldn't risk them seeing what she was, not yet. You want to explain any of this? I asked finally, my voice flat. She didn't even glance up. I told you I was having company. Company? You mean that guy? The one who hit me in front of our kids? She shrugged. He didn't hit you. You escalated. I stared at her, waiting for a flicker of guilt. Nothing. Who the hell is he, Mel? She locked her phone. Finally looked at me. He's someone who makes me feel alive. That knocked the breath out of me more than the slap ever did. You've been seeing him? She stood up and walked toward the hallway like the conversation bored her. I'm not doing this tonight. I'm tired. No, I said, stepping in front of her. You don't get to pull that. You brought a stranger into our house. You dressed up for him. You let him talk to me like I was a nobody in front of our sons. And you're acting like this is just a bad dinner party. She stared at me. Her eyes weren't angry, just cold. You made everything small, Ian. The job, the schedule, the meals. I needed more than your little routines. I opened my mouth, then closed it. My hands were shaking, but not from rage, confusion, heartbreak, disbelief. She pushed past me. I'm staying in the guest room tonight. I watched her disappear down the hall, robe flowing like a curtain closing on whatever was left of us. I sat on the couch, still breathing like I was in a fight. Because I was. Only now I knew I wasn't going to win it by yelling. Later that night, when she was asleep, I went looking. Not for drama, just the truth. I remembered her old phone, the one she said stopped working last spring. I'd almost thrown it out twice. But something told me to check. It was still in the junk drawer, tucked behind takeout menus and expired coupons. I plugged it in and waited. It lit up. No password change. Still her birthday. The wallpaper was a photo of the boys, maybe 2 years old. She hadn't even updated it. It was like looking through a time capsule of who she used to pretend to be. I opened her texts. There were dozens of threads, but one stood out, just an initial, S. I tapped it. I can't wait to feel your mouth again. He's downstairs with the kids. I'm wet just thinking about it. I want him to catch us. It turns me on. My mouth went dry. There were pictures too. Hotel beds. Her lips against someone else's neck. A shot of our bedroom mirror, her in lingerie I'd never seen before. And then, a video. I almost didn't press play, but I did. She was in our bed, laughing, whispering to the camera, he has no idea. None. It's almost fun now. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen, letting the silence wrap around me like a blanket made of knives. I wasn't just betrayed. I was mocked, turned into the joke at the center of her secret life. I didn't wake her, didn't scream, didn't throw anything. Instead, I walked into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and sat at the table until the sun came up. The boys woke first. They came in rubbing their eyes, asking about breakfast. I made pancakes, kept my voice steady, didn't let my hands tremble when I flipped them. Mel strolled in an hour later like nothing happened. Tight-lipped, hair still messy from sleep, scrolling through her phone like always. She didn't look at me, didn't say good morning to the boys, just grabbed her coffee and sat at the table. I looked at her and finally said it. How long has this been going on? She didn't even blink. A while. That guy yesterday? He's not your concern. No, I said. He's my son's concern. Because they watched him put his hands on me. And they watched you let him. She said nothing. I found your phone. That got her attention. She looked up, just a twitch in the corner of her mouth. A small crack in the armor. You went through my things? I went through the lies. Don't get it twisted. She stood up, pushed the chair back. You know what? You're pathetic. You can't handle a woman who wants more out of life. No, I said. I can't handle a woman who laughs while someone else calls himself the man of my house. I walked down the hall, grabbed one of the suitcases from the closet, and started folding some of her clothes. I didn't yell, didn't throw anything, just packed. She came in halfway through, arms crossed. What, you think you're kicking me out? You cheated. You lied. You put my kids in danger. If you had any decency, you'd leave. She shook her head, smirking. I'm not going anywhere. This is still my house too. I stopped folding, looked at her. Then don't expect peace. She didn't flinch, just turned and walked away. She stayed in the house. Guest room, mostly. but her presence hung over everything like smoke after a fire. She didn't talk to me unless she had to. Didn't talk to the boys much either. Just moved through the days like a squatter who knew the law was on our side for now. I started documenting everything. Conversations. Missed curfews. Nights out. The boys asking why she wasn't eating dinner with us. I called a lawyer. He told me to stay calm. Build the file. Be the stable one. So I was. I cooked. I cleaned. I kept the boys' bedtime routine. I smiled when I didn't feel like smiling. I held them when they cried and told them everything was going to be okay, even when I didn't believe it. Because that's what a real parent does. Not run off. Not bring strangers into their home. Not throw away years of marriage for a thrill. Mel didn't care. But I did. And I wasn't going to let my sons grow up thinking this was normal. Not in my house. By the 5th day, I stopped waiting for her to say sorry. Mel still hadn't left. Still used the guest room. Still walked past me in the hallway like I was some maintenance guy she didn't feel like acknowledging. The only time we spoke was when it involved the boys. Even then, she kept it clipped and cold, short answers, no eye contact, like she was doing me a favor by saying their names out loud. But I watched her. I watched the way she looked at her phone with a smile she hadn't shown me in years. I watched the way she didn't flinch when the boys asked where she was the night before. I watched her laugh at the TV, text through dinner, and breeze in at midnight smelling like she belonged to someone else. She didn't even try to hide it anymore. And that was the part that hurt most. She didn't respect me. She didn't fear losing the kids. She didn't even pretend to care what this was doing to them. She was done. Checked out. Emotionally relocated to wherever Sean lived. But she wasn't gone. Not yet. One night, I walked past the boys' room and found Jordan awake, sitting up in bed, blanket bunched in his lap. Can't sleep. I asked. He shook his head. Mommy said she was going to read to us. I paused. When did she say that? Before dinner. That was 4 hours ago. She never showed. I'll read, I said. I tucked him in and picked the same dinosaur book we always used. I read it slow, calm. Tried to pretend like the last week hadn't happened. Tried to make my voice sound like safety. When I was done, he looked up at me and said, "Is Mommy still mad at you?" I looked at the ceiling. Took a breath. No, buddy. Mommy's not mad. She's not feeling very good right now. Is she going to be here when I wake up? I don't know, I said. He blinked, and I saw it. Just a glint of confusion that hadn't quite turned into pain yet. That was the moment I knew. If I didn't act soon, she wasn't just going to break me. She was going to break them too. The next night, Mel came home just after 1 a.m. I was on the couch, half asleep, watching one of those late-night documentaries just to keep my mind distracted. She walked in like she lived alone, heels dangling from one hand, lip gloss smudged, eyes glassy. She didn't look at me. Just muttered, "You're still up." I didn't answer. She disappeared into the guest room and closed the door. I sat there in the quiet, the blue light of the TV flashing across the living room walls, and something inside me started to shift. It wasn't rage. It wasn't grief. It was something lower, steadier. Resolve. I wasn't going to ask her to leave again. I was going to make sure she had no choice. The next morning, I made breakfast like always, eggs, toast, strawberries. The boys sat quiet at the table, barely touching their food. Mel came down in workout clothes, grabbed a protein shake from the fridge, and gave me a look like I was a stranger standing too close in line. Then she asked, "Are you taking them to school or am I?" "You haven't taken them all week," I said. She rolled her eyes. So dramatic. "You don't even know what class they're in." That stopped her, just for a second. A flicker of discomfort. But she recovered fast. "You gonna pull the perfect dad card now? After you beat a man half to death in our living room?" "He hit me," I said. Calm. "You just smiled while he did it." That was the first time she didn't respond. She just grabbed her keys and walked out the door. I called the lawyer that afternoon. Told him to move forward. Restraining orders. Custody filings. Everything. I wanted airtight, I said. He asked, "You sure you're ready for this?" I didn't even hesitate. I've never been more sure of anything. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't break. I didn't scroll old photos or reread her messages. I stood in the boys' room and watched them sleep. One of them mumbled something in a dream. The other rolled over and kicked his blanket off. I covered him back up, and then I whispered to the dark, "You're not gonna grow up thinking this is love." She left on a Tuesday. No goodbye to the boys. No boxes. No long tearful exit. Just a coat over her arm, keys in one hand, phone in the other, like she was running a quick errand. She walked out of the house she helped destroy like she was heading to the gym. And just like that, the air changed. I didn't celebrate, didn't cry, didn't even close the door for a while. I just stood there, staring at the empty porch like it might explain something. But it didn't. It was just a slab of concrete in the cold. The boys were watching cartoons when she walked out. They didn't even notice. Or maybe they did and just didn't want to ask. I let them have that. Let them keep pretending for one more day. That night, I cleaned. Not to be petty. Not out of spite. Just because I needed to. Her perfume still hung on the curtains. Her bobby pins were still on the bathroom counter. Her coat still smelled like someone else's cologne. I boxed up everything she left behind. Folded what I could. Threw the rest into trash bags. I didn't light anything on fire. Didn't smash her framed pictures. I just packed it all, like you do when you're done playing house and ready to live in the aftermath. When I opened the closet to grab the last of her shoes, I saw our wedding album sitting on the top shelf. I took it down. First page, us in front of the church, smiling like idiots. Her veil twisted in the wind, my tie crooked because I never learned how to tie one right. The look in my eyes? That was belief. Hope. The whole fantasy. I closed it. Didn't even flip the page. Just set it in the box like it was evidence in a case I was no longer trying to win. The next morning, I changed the locks. Called a locksmith and watched him work in silence while the boys ate breakfast and asked if they could go to the park later. Maybe, I said. Let's just get through the day. The court papers were filed that same week. My lawyer, a quiet guy named Ellis, told me I'd done everything right. Documentation. Screenshots. Timeline. Stability. You've been the only parent in that house, he said. Judges don't ignore that. Mel tried calling the day after the papers were served. I didn't answer. She sent a text instead. You're really doing this? You're really blowing it all up? I stared at it for a minute, then replied. I'm not blowing anything up. I'm just not letting you burn the rest of it down. She didn't respond. The boys started asking where she was on the fourth day. I didn't lie. She's not living here anymore, I said. But she still loves you. She's just figuring some things out. Ben asked, is she coming back? I paused. No, I don't think so. He didn't cry. He just nodded and went back to his cereal. Jordan stayed quiet all day. That night, he crawled into my bed without a word. Just climbed under the blanket and clung to me like he was bracing for a storm. I held him and didn't say anything. What could I say? That it would be okay? That she'd come around? That love is always enough? No. I'd already learned the truth. Some people can't be loved enough to stay. They have to leave. They have to break things. They have to throw away the very life you built with them just to feel something new. I wasn't chasing her anymore. A week later, we had our first custody hearing. She showed up in a beige coat and black heels, looking every bit the professional mother. Her nails were done. Her voice was calm. She smiled like she wasn't the same woman who let a man slap me in front of my sons. But the judge didn't care about smiles. He cared about stability. He cared about facts. He cared about the documentation my lawyer laid out in a neat row: phone records, missed pickups, videos, texts, statements from neighbors, school attendance logs, my time-stamped photos of bedtime routines and school lunches and doctor visits. By the end of it, the judge said the words I'd been carrying like a weight I didn't even realize I was strong enough to hold. Primary custody will be granted to the father. Mel didn't say a word. She just stood, collected her bag, and walked out. That was the last time I saw her in a courtroom. That night, I sat on the back porch with a beer in my hand and both boys asleep upstairs. The stars were out. It was quiet. Not the heavy kind of quiet that used to suffocate me when she was still in the house. This was different. This was earned. There wasn't a parade. No finish line. No dramatic music. Just me, alone with the sky, realizing that I hadn't just survived the worst week of my life. I'd done something more. I'd ended it. On my terms. 3 months. That's how long it had been since she walked out of the house like it meant nothing. Since she dropped the title of mother like a coat that didn't fit anymore. In that time, the house had changed. It felt cleaner. Not just tidier. Lighter. Like her perfume had finally stopped clinging to the curtains. Like the rooms finally remembered who they belonged to. The boys adjusted better than I expected. At first, they asked when she was coming back. But I kept it simple. She's not living here right now. They stopped asking after the first month. Ben, who used to wait at the window around dinner time, stopped checking. Jordan, who cried the first few nights, now laughed during bedtime stories. There were still cracks, moments when one of them would say, "Mommy used to," and leave the sentence unfinished, but mostly they moved forward. And so did I. I got them to school on time. I cooked. I kept the laundry moving. I kissed their foreheads every night and made sure they heard, "I love you," enough times to drown out the silence she left behind. She called 4 times in total. I didn't pick up once. The voicemails got more desperate each time. "Ian, you can't just cut me out. I'm still their mother. I've made mistakes, I know that, but they're my kids too. Don't do this. You think you're the hero? You think they'll thank you for keeping them from me?" And finally, "Please, just let me talk to them. Just let me hear their voices." I didn't respond to a single one, because she didn't leave the boys a note. She didn't call on their birthday. She didn't show up for the parent-teacher conference or the dentist appointments or the night Ben got sick and threw up all over the hallway carpet while I held a bucket and sang "Twinkle, Twinkle" through tears. She was gone. Not just physically. Gone in the way that means you stop being part of the story. But like I expected, one day she came back. It was early evening. The sky was gray, clouds heavy. The boys were in the living room building some kind of cardboard fortress out of Amazon boxes. I was cooking spaghetti. The doorbell rang. When I opened it, there she was. Mel, a shell of the woman she used to be. She'd lost weight. Her makeup was done, but wrong. Like she'd rushed it. Her coat was buttoned wrong. Hair frizzed at the ends. Hands shaking. "Ian," she said, voice thin. I stepped out and closed the door behind me. She blinked, clearly surprised. "You're not going to let me come in?" I said nothing. "I've been in counseling," she said. Weakly. "I've been trying to understand what I did, why I did it. And I know it's too late to fix everything. But I need to see them." "You need to." Her voice cracked. "Please. I'm begging you. Just 5 minutes. They're my babies, too." I looked her in the eye. "They cried for you," I said. "For weeks. Jordan wet the bed. Ben stopped eating. And you were what? In hotel rooms? Playing house with a man who slapped their father while you stood there and smiled." Tears welled in her eyes. "I know. I hate myself for it. I can't sleep. I can't look in the mirror. You should have thought about that before letting them become collateral damage." She wiped her face, mascara streaking. "I left because I thought I needed freedom. I thought I was suffocating. But the second I got out there, I realized I had nothing. Sean's gone. The friends I thought were mine disappeared when I stopped showing off. I have nothing left, Ian. Nothing but them." I didn't speak. She took a shaky breath. "I'm not asking to come back to you. I know I ruined that. But please, please let me talk to them." I looked back at the door, heard the boys laughing inside, then turned back to her. "I'll ask them." She nodded fast, like a drowning woman grabbing at rope. "Thank you." I went inside, closed the door behind me, and knelt in the living room. "Hey," I said. "Mom's outside. She wants to talk to you." They both froze. Ben looked up. "Now." "Yeah." Jordan looked at Ben, then down at his socks. I said, "You don't have to. Only if you want to." Ben shook his head. "Can we just play?" Jordan didn't speak. Just sat down and picked up a toy truck and rolled it across the carpet. I walked back outside. "They're not coming to the door," I said. Mel's face crumpled. "They don't want to see me?" "Not right now." Her knees buckled a little, like I just pulled the floor out from under her. She turned away, then turned back. "Can I write them a letter?" "You can try. I won't promise they'll read it." She bit her lip. Her whole body was trembling now. "I used to sing to them before bed. I used to be their everything. Then you threw it away." "I know. God, I know." More silence. She looked up at me, eyes puffy. "Are they happy?" I didn't answer right away. Then I said, "They're okay." She nodded, as if that answer hurt more than anything else I could have said. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For them, not for me." Then she walked away. She didn't look back. That night, I stood at the edge of the boys' room and watched them sleep. Same blankets. Same nightlight glowing in the corner. Same sound of soft breathing. I'd kept them safe. Not just physically. Emotionally. Spiritually. They weren't whole. But they weren't broken either. And neither was I. I wasn't waiting for her to fix it. I wasn't writing letters she'd never read or hoping for closure from a ghost. I had the truth. And I had 2 kids who still called me Dad with love in their voices. And that was enough. Maybe more than enough.